Are these good donuts?
These are good donuts.
Why are we eating donuts? I don't know. It's weird. I just we went to go see Power Rangers. Now we're just eating donuts.
Scott,
I don't know why.
Like donuts.
I don't know why. Yeah, there's no good reason. What's up, everybody? My name's Andrew Tabbitt.
I'm Justin Spinney.
And I'm Darold and Andrew III.
And he's Batman. And so this is the first episode of Cougar Cinema. This is going to be a weekly show here on CougCast where the three of us or other members of the CougCast crew go out to see a new movie in theaters and give a bit of review and share thoughts and kind of start the conversation with you guys. So we're going to finish off these donuts and get started. Alright guys, so we're going to start getting into Power Rangers now. Just with some general... What are
What's
you doing?
that?
Seriously?
It's the 90s. They're,
What? God. Okay, that joke is more tired than half the jokes in this movie.
it seems like they want their show back.
Okay, let's go. So, we're going to get into general thoughts, what we thought of the movie overall, and then we'll kind of get down to more specifics. So, I mean, to start with, I'll kind of get into my background. I don't really have that much of a background with Power Rangers. I didn't watch it much as a kid, so I kind of went into this a little bit fresh. I generally knew, what they were and what we're going to be seeing, but I thought it was an interesting mix of things that didn't really know exactly what it wanted to be, but I enjoyed it at times. Like, what about you, Justin?
Yeah, I was a very infrequent viewer of Power Rangers. I enjoyed all the colors. I thought that was fun. What about you, Darold?
I'm pretty much along the same lines as you all here. I watched the movie when I was a kid. I didn't really watch a lot of the show. But I will be honest with you. Going this movie, I didn't have the highest expectations. But I did want to do two things. You don't go into Power Rangers expecting an Oscar nominee here.
That's fair.
So going in, all I wanted to do two things. I want to have good characters. And I wanted to be fun action. And it gave me those two things. And so in general, I liked it. I had a good time.
I think that's an interesting thought, like going into the idea that you weren't expecting an Oscar thing. Like, we've grown to know that, like, you just don't go into kids' movies expecting that. When, like, movies like the Lego Movie blew away all expectations and were great.
Well, it's not even necessarily just, like, a kids' movie, because I personally think some kids' movies could be a lot more mature than even some of the stuff that's intended just for adults. I mean, I wasn't expecting much just because... based off the trailers and also the property, Power Rangers was very cheesy from the get-go. From what I understand, the original show was just a lot of stuff taken from, I think it was like Japan.
Yep.
And just dubbed in English.
Yeah.
So, based on the source material and just the trailers as well, when you see the Blue Ranger just jumping across the canyon or wherever it is, and it looks like a wire's just pulling him, it's just... From there, I wasn't expecting much because of the source material and also just what we saw in the trailers.
Right.
So I was pleasantly surprised by it didn't suck, and it was actually enjoyable.
Right. I'm not sure it was so much a kids' movie. You know what I'm saying? They weren't necessarily cashing in on kids. It was, again, like the nostalgia factor. Like Finding Dory. I mean, Finding Dory, you weren't selling out to kids.
Yeah.
You were selling out to teenagers like us, college students.
I think at the same time, Finding Dory at least was still accessible to kids. That's one of the things I want to get into, where this movie felt like it almost was selling out the children's audience to try to get the nostalgia money, because there were a lot of things in this that kind of were just surprising from a movie that I thought was supposed to be somewhat of a kid's movie.
Yeah, and going off of that, personally, I think there's a difference between films that are like just kids movies and family movies. To me, some family movies is something like Inside Out, where yes, kids can really much enjoy it for like the colors and characters, but we as adults can also enjoy it for some of the creative themes and ideas they come across, and the messages they put in here. With something like Power Rangers here, I really think it is. It knows what it knows what it is. This movie knows what it is. It's a nostalgia ride. It knows how most of the people who grew up with it, they're grown up now. They're adults. So I really think it's also trying to take a new take on it, because going a little bit into what we liked about this movie, what I did like about this movie is the whole thing with Power Rangers. So I remember is the saying was like, oh, these are like teenagers with attitude. But I understand back in the day they were basically very nice, good, run-of-the-mill kids. This movie opens up with some dude, the Red Ranger, with a ankle bracelet.
Right.
and they're in detention, and it really cements, hey, they're not bad kids, but they've done some stuff. They're not perfect.
Right.
And I like that. I don't want to say this is dark. I don't want, because I mean it's a little more mature, I would say.
Yeah.
The teenagers feel a little more relatable, and they feel more like teens, not just...
They just all had minor daddy issues.
Pretty much.
I guess.
But don't worry, Floating Head Cranston Daddy protected them all.
That's right.
They gave them power. They gave them hope.
I don't want to hear Floating Head Cranston Daddy ever again. I feel like that's gonna haunt me. Like, no, I mean, and getting stuff we like I genuinely liked a lot of moments in this movie. It's just, it was a movie that really tried for a lot of moments to its fault at times, but at other times they really worked. There were some funny moments. There were some genuinely likable character moments, some strong character moments, especially I'm repping the blue for Blue Ranger. I really loved that actor's performance. I think the overall, the performances is just one thing I loved. All of the kids they got in this movie were generally pretty good. There were some moments with the Black Ranger that I thought he went a little bit over the top, but it's a Power Rangers movie. I mean, the whole thing is over the top, so I was okay with it. Like,
true, that's something I did appreciate. Is I was a little nervous going in because I was watching a video from Black Nerd Comedy on YouTube, and he was doing an interview with on the set of the Power Rangers, and I think a couple of them, or at least one of them, I can't remember which Ranger was, said that this was not just their first movie; it was like their first real job. And I don't. Correct me if I'm wrong, but that's what I remember. Point is, they don't have a lot of experience. And when I heard that, I went, like, I wasn't expecting much then.
Right.
Nothing against them, just because it's their first big project.
Yeah.
Not even just their
Right.
first time doing, like, an actual, like, job. So I was really surprised by how genuinely good the performances were.
Mhm.
Like, and I don't just mean, oh, they're okay. No, they were, like, really... I really like these people, and I want to see more of them. To me, the real standouts... Everyone was great, but the real standouts, I think, were... the Red Ranger, Blue Ranger, I would say Pink Ranger, because they really felt like they're kind of the...
yeah.
They were ones that really started out in the beginning, that were focused on from the very beginning. They kind of have a friendship to start out with. So I feel like that's what the movie put most of the focus on. So thus, we just, I think, naturally are kind of drawn to them a little more. But everyone else was still great.
Right.
We're still very good. Except maybe the villain, which I'll get into that later.
That was, yeah. Yeah.
I'll get I like that. Just
monster
Yeah.
grow.
I've killed rangers before. No, this makes me dramatic. You gotta do best the hands movements and talk really just intense. Oh.
I thought her voice was hot.
So I will say, I'm gonna say this to get it out if you need to, but Elizabeth Banks as Rita, I was both.
That was Elizabeth Banks?
That was Elizabeth Banks.
Okay, there were times I thought it was Kristen Stewart. I'm sorry, no, Kristen Wiig. Kristen Wiig. Like, it was so over the top of comedic.
I was like, Kristen Stewart.
Not Kristen, no, Kristen Wiig.
Top.
Just at how, like, is she doing the terrible character from Zoolander 2? Whoever that was, like, they both looked horrible. Like, equally, like, terrifying. What did you like about the movie, Justin?
I appreciated what they did with the actors. Like, none of them are going to go win an Oscar. And they knew that. And they went out. It looked like they were having a genuinely good time filming this movie. I really appreciated that.
That's the worst compliment I've ever heard. Like, you knew you weren't going to win any awards, but you had a good time.
It worked, though.
That's
worked
what you
with this movie.
That's what you say to kids. There was a
think so.
soccer
Rangers.
game.
I was going to say, the kid in the baseball game who's just drawing in the sand, like, you know what? He knew he wasn't going to win, but he had the best time he could out there, and that's all you can ask.
He had a good eye.
They were...
He took all the balls.
But
Those
you do bring a good point. It's that everyone looks like they want to be on set.
Yeah.
Everyone is having a good time, and I really like the connection between all the Rangers. Because what's really interesting is this isn't just a non-stop action movie. In fact, the first two-thirds, there's not a ton of action in it. They don't even really get in their suits till like the third act. So...
Right.
I actually really appreciate that because they use that time to focus on building characters. Because it really is an origin story when it comes down to it.
And that was actually one of the things that surprised me, was it being the Power Rangers movie, marketed the way it was and everything. I was surprised that they didn't get their suits. Like, the first time they step into the little rings, this is in the middle of the movie, not really spoiler territory, but we'll get into that in a minute. But I was surprised they didn't get their suits earlier. The first time they step in, it looked like, okay, cool, now is going to get all the cheesy action, the training montage, all that. And it happened to a degree, but they kept the suits out of it, which almost made it still more human and relatable, which I did appreciate that. Like I said, there was there were some good choices. And to that, on like what you were saying, with it looked like every actor was having fun on set. It looked like every actor wanted to be there. They were given the license to have fun with it. They were given you could tell there were definitely some takes maybe where it was like, hey, read this exactly how it's written, then have fun with it. Just go. Just, what do you think you would say? And you could tell there were definitely some good parts like that.
Yeah, very much.
So I guess now that we've been complimenting the movie for a while, it's time we kind of take it back down into reality and
knock it down a peg, because there's problems. I enjoyed it, but it's just like I said before, it's I liked it. There are definitely stuff one of you can start off if you like.
It's the Power Rangers. I mean, the original, I mean, it was 90s classic television. There was nothing great about it, and they took it. I'm not sure what their motivation was to start making this, but you can't expect a whole lot from what the original was just to begin with.
It's fair.
Yeah. And go ahead.
I was just I think it was a movie to me that felt like it was without like a real target audience. Because there were definitely points that felt like it was aiming for the kids. It was a kids movie. This was fun. It's like, they don't care that they're this over the top. They don't care that they're this juvenile. They're not going to touch this and this. They left the kids' gloves on. And then there are so many other parts where they just ripped them off. The language in this movie, like, I'm not one to mention language in movies a lot. But the first half, largely clean. Then as soon as we get to the fun Rock'em Sock'em robots, they start saying bullshit. Oh, shit. Whoa. Oh, don't be an ass. Like, they start dropping this language. I'm like, what movie is this supposed to be? They reference the thing that just sealed it for me. There's a Die Hard reference 30 seconds before the cheesiest shot you've ever seen in a movie, when they play the actual theme from the kids show. They go straight from Yippee-Ki-Yay Mother directly to Go Go Power Rangers!
Right.
Which just spell out my entire issue with the movie, where you have this, hey, this is for the adults. Here, kids! Like, they just didn't care to a certain degree. And you know that kids are not going to get that reference. The only reference they're going to get is, oh, he was going to say the F word.
Right.
And all the parents are thinking is, cover Billy's ears. Like,
to go off that, like right after the Power Ranger song, they go into Kanye West, Power, which lists off its fair share of words.
I will defend the movie a little bit here and refer you to the PG-13 rating. And that is to say it's there for a reason. I really think it's there. This movie really, I think, is aiming towards a new audience. It's aiming towards teenagers who want to go see like a fun action movie. And it's also aiming towards those who maybe grew up with Power Rangers. So I'm just keeping in mind, like, if someone's bringing their 10-year-old kid or like 9-year-old to see this.
There were 4 and 5-year-olds in the theater with us that were talking. They were the most entertaining part of some of the movie.
It's true.
There were some really funny.
Then critique the parents, not the.
No, and that's the thing. Like, I went to go see Logan a month ago, which is a very R-rated, very adult, very sad, amazing movie.
It is a great movie, but hard R.
Hard R. There were 10-year-olds and under sitting near me in that, and I just couldn't even imagine, like, some of the gore and action. We're not talking about Logan here, but just some of the gore and action, this tragedy in that movie. It was like, you're seriously taking an 8-year-old to this. Like, parents don't look at the ratings nowadays as much as they used to. A lot of parents don't. My thought, though, with the rating, with you saying it was given the PG-13, that's fair. But what if there's that kid that watches Power Rangers on TV? He's maybe 8 or 9. He wants to go see it in theaters. But he's got this somewhat conservative parents, the parents that look at the ratings, they look at the guidelines, and they say, listen, there's partial nudity with Rita having just sheets of rope covering up her breasts at one point. Like, seriously, if no one needed that. There's all the swearing, there's all kinds of other references to things, and this movie didn't need that. This movie just didn't flat out need that in a lot of ways, and that's going to keep kids that love this franchise from seeing it in, I would guess, more than a couple cases. Because I know for me as a kid, like, we didn't even watch a lot of, like, Cartoon Network was banned in our house. Fun fact. Power Rangers, my older brother was not allowed to watch Power Rangers. I was given a soft pass. It was okay every once in a while. Parents not a fan, though. Mm-hmm. If this movie came out when I was 8, I would not have been allowed to see it, for sure.
Right.
So for me, I'm just angry for all the other kids that were like me that maybe wouldn't have gotten to see this movie and would have gotten to see it if it just didn't have a couple things it didn't need.
Are you gonna be okay?
I hear you.
Do you need a hug?
Oh.
Bring it in.
Yeah, no, that I definitely get that perspective, but at the same time, I mean, it is what it is. I really think they were trying to go for an older audience, for the nostalgia crowd, and also just for the older kids or teenagers who just want to see a more, I guess, mature version of the Power Rangers.
That's fair.
But yeah, that does suck though for like the kids who are just like, oh, Power Rangers, and this isn't necessarily the Power Rangers they.
Mm-hmm.
I want to say grew up with, but they probably didn't grow up with
the Power Rangers that they know, that they like they wouldn't they wouldn't understand why they're not able to see it.
True.
And that's tough to explain to a kid.
True. But to back up a bit to some of the problems of the movie, two big ones to keep in mind is it is very predictable, and for me, I can forgive that because I did like the characters and the overall story, but you go in and don't expect any surprises, really. It's like I said, it's your typical origin story with a bunch of misfit kids. They're not going to get along together. They're going to have a falling out. They're going to get back together, fight a big villain. Looks like they're not going to make it, save the day. And it's not even really a spoiler. That's just, it's kind of, you get that from just even by watching the trailers or even the first 2 minutes of the movie. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. That's just something you need to keep in mind is you're going to be able to, even if you're not a big movie goer, if you just watch a few films from time to time, you're going to catch on pretty quickly. That's not really necessarily as a flaw, as something to keep in mind. The biggest flaw for me, I think, was the tone. Because on one hand, I think Jeremy Jahns put it really well because I watched this review a little bit before I saw the movie. He put it well when he said, it felt like the kids, the main Power Rangers, had in mind that this could be their big break. And they put in all their acting chops they could into this. Whereas then you have other actors, like mainly Elizabeth Banks, who's like, I already have my big break, and Power Rangers were cheesy, so I'm going to play up the cheesy. And so you have, on one hand, the kids, the main actors and actresses who are trying very hard to bring a mature take on this. And then you have someone like Elizabeth Banks, who is hamming it up 100%. And it's like putting peanut butter and mayonnaise together in a sandwich, where they're both good on their own and with other stuff. When you put them together, it just tastes weird.
You don't like that?
Yeah, no, I'm not a peanut butter. I haven't really tried it. Don't think I need to.
No,
I usually don't knock
things. You can't judge it until you try it.
Usually I don't, but I have a feeling that's not gonna be on the menu. I'm never gonna be like,
tune in for episode 2, where Darold tries peanut butter and mayonnaise.
Cooking with CougCast coming up next.
Why not? Let's open the next show with that. Just all of us eating mayonnaise peanut butter sandwiches.
You're the one who said it.
Let's go into Rita, like you said, a bit more,
Yeah.
and then we'll kind of go into final thoughts and give it a rating because you got to wrap this up. So basically, talking about Rita, you talked about how she really hammed it up.
Right.
I think she did a mix of bringing in the cheesiest parts of the movie, but also the darkest, which just felt wrong. It was almost 90s nostalgic to the really Tim Burton-esque, dark, sinister, weird, cheesy campiness. But it was really campy, but it was also unapologetically like dark and adult in some ways, where just all about, oh, I've killed you before and I could kill you. It was really violent. It was just really violent, dark, and at times sexual, which didn't need to happen at all. Like, with the costumes as well as her face when she was doing a lot of different things, it was like, oh, so you're aroused by this giant gold man you've built. Grow, my monster.
Grow.
But yeah, what did you guys think? We were talking about Rita, like...
You pretty much hit it on the head there. She seemed like a cartoon. And that's fine if the rest of the movie also felt like a cartoon or was going like that, but that's just go out what I was saying before. The tones with her and the main cast, they didn't match. And there's not really much more to say on there other than it. Her performance wasn't necessarily bad. It was just the angle she was taking. I feel like if you put
And that can be on the director.
tone's on the same. I'm trying to find a way to say it.
If that tone were in a different movie, it'd be great.
Very much. Or if that was in a different movie, or if the roles, or if everyone's at least on the same path
the same plane of
the
campy,
same plane
right.
of either campy or somewhat serious. If she instead took it more serious, it would have been better. If the Rangers said to take it a little more just hammy, have fun with it, it would have been better. But they just didn't mesh well.
Right. I thought her depiction was very interesting. First of all, her introduction, where she was introduced on the boat.
Very, like, fish-like.
Right,
and
exactly.
Mummified.
It just kind of came out of the blue, really.
Yeah. Just so happened to wash up at the same time. Like,
Right.
it was never established if the Rangers showing up are what, like, made her appear and somehow get caught in a fishing net, or if it was just kind of happenstance that it was at the same time.
Right.
Yeah.
But, okay, so I think right now we're going to get into final thoughts where we kind of tie up our thoughts on the movie, give it a bit of a rating. Are you guys ready? Or I can go first if you guys need a bit of time to think of your rating.
You can go first. I'm getting my rating.
So, final thoughts. Like, I really did enjoy parts of this movie. I think for certain audiences, it's going to be fantastic. If you grew up with Power Rangers, in a lot of ways, you might love this. It's a better movie than you'd expect in terms of acting from the cast and great serious tones. And, like, it reminds me of The Breakfast Club, the beginning a little bit, with the kids in detention.
Yeah, I get you.
And it had some really great moments in that and just throughout the movie, but it kind of let itself down. It left a bad taste in my mouth with certain things, trying to aim for adults and be edgy in ways it really didn't need to be. So for me, something that was kind of like sweet and fun, but left a bad taste in my mouth, I'm gonna give it. I'm rating the Power Rangers a fly in my ice cream cone. Because overall it's good, but there's just this weird thing someone stuck in there for no reason that just doesn't taste right. So I give it a fly in my ice cream cone.
Okay, that's good. To me, final thoughts. This is a very good movie. I thought they did an interesting job, like subtly putting in social issues.
Yeah,
it was very subtle, but they did put in multiple social issues. And overall, I think it's one that would be a good idea to see in the theater. If you don't have time, it's okay. Rent it when it comes out, but do see it. I give it the coming home to your childhood dog, but it's just not the same.
Oh, like a senile old dog?
Exactly. Like you walk in, you see your dog, it's so exciting. You've missed this dog for so long. It's been alive for 10, 15 years, but it's just, it's not as great as it was when you were a child.
So what we got here is that Justin's love for his dog is conditional when they get older. But aside from that dark note...
Now I look like the bad guy.
But aside from that, I don't know what you're saying with the nostalgia factor. I really think for those who grew up with Power Rangers, they're really going to love it because one of my best friends, he told me he saw the movie and he would tell me that growing up, there isn't a single picture of him as a kid without a Power Rangers toy in his hand. So he grew up with this.
Yeah.
He was excited for this. And he was hoping it wouldn't suck. And as soon as he gets out of the theater, because I saw it before he did, and I just said, oh, it was okay and everything. You'll probably have fun. And he says to you in all caps, this movie was amazing!
Okay.
He said, I cried a single tear. He was so into it. So if you're really nostalgic about this, I think you're going to really like it. But if you're someone like all of us here who maybe didn't really grow up with it as much, and if you're someone like me where I knew what I wanted out of it. I wanted some good characters, some decent writing, and I wanted some good action. And I got all that. And I wasn't... So if you just go in for... Essentially think of it as a summer popcorn movie in the spring. Go in... Have some fun, turn off your brain a little bit, enjoy some good performances, and watch robots and monsters fight each other.
There you go.
And my rating is I wouldn't take her home to mother. Like I would, we date a little bit, but it's not something long term. We're gonna have fun. We have fun, but I wouldn't introduce her to folks. So my rating is like her, wouldn't take her home to mother.
That's good.
I like it. Well, that'll do it for us today. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll be back next week. Stay tuned, subscribe, find us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all that stuff, and let us know what you want us to see. I'm Andrew.
I'm Justin.
And I'm Darold.
Go Cougs.
Go Cougs!
I think I could do it in one bite.
If you believe in yourself.
I believe.